distinguished guests, esteemed teachers, and all my dear fellow students, a very good evening to you all. Thank you all very much for graciously attending this important Sinology Forum, which has been thoughtfully organized by Nanjing Forestry University. Today, we are extremely honored to have invited the great Khenpo from Larungar Buddhist Academy in Sichuan, an internationally renowned and highly respected Buddhist theorist, activist, and translator, truly a paragon of profound learning and wisdom, a modern-day Xuanzang, the esteemed Khenpo Sodargye, to interpret for us through the insightful lens of Buddhism and its timeless teachings. One of the topics people care most about today is ecological civilization. At the present time, we can all clearly see the significant severity of ecological and environmental issues currently facing our country. The destruction of ecological balance has already threatened human survival and development. At the same time, the long-term absence of traditional culture has led to a serious social malaise. To build a harmonious society, it is essential to strengthen ideological and moral education, as well as mental health education throughout society. We must promote positive energy and carry forward outstanding traditional virtues to foster the improvement of character among all members of society. In order to build our country and achieve the sustainable development of the Chinese nation, and to further and significantly enrich everyone's comprehensive ecological awareness and understanding, we have very specially and honorably invited a great Khenpo from Larungar Buddhist Academy to visit Nanjing Forestry University. It is truly a rare opportunity to hear an exposition on ecological thought from the perspective of Buddhism. Now let us all listen attentively and respectfully together to the truly wonderful and inspiring speech of the highly esteemed and revered Khenpo Sodargye. Please welcome him with great anticipation.
Today at Nanjing Forestry University, I am here to learn together with teachers and students. What are we learning? Ecological thought in Buddhism. Ecological issues are actually something that everyone should care about. Recently, after arriving in Nanjing, I noticed the smog is quite severe. I have heard that many schools are unable to hold classes as usual, and people absolutely have to wear masks when going outside. But I think that perhaps masks alone can't really solve the bigger problems. Some of our current and pressing ecological problems are in fact very serious and critical issues that demand our attention. When it comes to the delicate balance of our ecosystem, perhaps everyone present here today, including our esteemed teachers, dedicated scholars, and diligent students alike, should also conscientiously pay close attention to this crucial matter in your future lives and endeavors. Perhaps we might think that ecological issues are not something that we as individuals can truly address. This is the responsibility of all humanity. It's also intrinsically related to the significant policies and strategic decisions set forth by the top leaders of various countries. And for each of us, it might not seem directly relevant, but if all of us truly think in this way, believing that it has nothing to do with me personally, that it's someone else's matter, then this world would truly have no caretakers. Some of the bright and promising young people gathered here today should undoubtedly become the future dedicated stewards and visionary leaders of our precious earth. That's precisely why we have absolutely no choice but to genuinely care about and actively engage in environmental protection right now. We often find ourselves contemplating just how truly serious and widespread environmental pollution has become in our modern world nowadays. The heavily polluted air that we are experiencing now has even crossed vast oceans, reaching distant shores, reaching various influential countries across the globe, such as the United States of America, the Republic of Korea, Japan, and several other nations. It has been widely reported that a number of highly experienced experts and specialized air quality professionals from these aforementioned countries have traveled to China to provide their valuable assistance with comprehensive environmental management and pollution control efforts once again. But I think, after all, relying solely on outside assistance, regardless of which country it may be, is not the answer. If its own people fail to truly recognize the duty and necessity of safeguarding their own environment, and if all those who are capable and wealthy end up regrettably leaving their cherished homeland for other, more developed, clean, and truly beautiful countries, and do not genuinely value their own national education system and all those with sufficient financial means send their beloved children to other highly prestigious schools abroad, then such a nation, such a leadership, including every single one of us dedicated intellectuals and esteemed scholars, faces a profound and critical challenge. We will inevitably face truly very severe environmental pollution caused by themselves in the future. This is one of the significant impacts of our overall external environment. But what is the root cause of the impact from the external environment? In fact, it is the environment of our own hearts and minds. The environment of our hearts and minds, our way of thinking, may indeed be even more deeply polluted. On this crucial issue, people in the 21st century really need to pause and reflect deeply. Why do I say this? Because by now, everyone should be very clear and understand that the earth on which we all live and depend today is indeed finding it increasingly hard to bear all kinds of growing pressures from humanity. I also very often read some of the most current news and detailed reports. Around approximately 2004, there was a renowned American geography magazine, an influential publication, that explicitly stated that the resources on our planet are finite and precious and truly limited. If everyone in the world wanted to achieve the same elevated standard of living as in the affluent United States of America, even the vast and extensive resources of 3 Earths would not be enough. Moreover, our precious and fragile Earth is indeed profoundly sick now. What is the critical reason for this illness? The primary reason for this concerning situation is very closely related to our inherent human greed. There exists a significant and widely recognized metric known as the Living Planet Report, which originates from the highly respected Worldwide Fund for Nature. Based on the comprehensive data presented within this index, what profound insights does it reveal to us? It indicates that currently the world's vital natural resources have been significantly depleted in just a relatively short period, specifically from the year 1970 to 1995. In just 25 short and impactful years, the valuable resources that have been tragically lost accounted for a significant 1/3 of the Earth's entire total resources. With this concerning fact firmly in mind, we are compelled to wonder, what will the people in the future truly do? And as for our absolutely vital freshwater, the total available amount of this essential resource is alarmingly decreasing year by year. In just 25 years, the devastating rate of decline has already reached a critical 50%. Similarly, our precious forests are being continuously depleted and reduced every year at an alarming pace. The annual loss is truly staggering, equivalent to an entire area the size of the United Kingdom disappearing. As a grave and direct result, our land, forests, and freshwater resources, the entire natural environment that supports us, is being severely polluted and systematically destroyed in this increasingly dangerous way. What exactly is the reason for this? I truly think everyone should fully know. According to one reliable source, people on Earth today, not only have we inherited the Earth from our predecessors, but more importantly, we are also borrowing it from our future generations. We have already borrowed the Earth's resources that belong to our descendants. I find this particular statement quite alarming. Now, in some countries, for the sake of their future generations, they are taking significant steps. They try to conserve the resources they possess as much as possible, making every effort to reduce consumption and to protect and preserve them. But what exactly is the prevailing mindset that dominates in many of our bustling cities today? Everyone truly knows it. As long as I can personally use it myself, that's absolutely all that genuinely matters. This kind of self-centered mentality. If we continue to proceed like this, the fundamental root cause of all kinds of devastating disasters happening throughout the entire world today is actually very closely and intimately related to our hearts and our actions. Everyone truly knows this fact, and I have paid careful attention to it before as well. There is a documentary called Plus or Minus 2 Degrees, which was produced in Taiwan. If you have the chance, you should definitely watch some truly insightful movies, engaging TV shows, or thought-provoking documentaries that are profoundly beneficial for environmental protection and for our minds. The documentary Plus or Minus 2 Degrees Celsius, The Truth Taiwan Must Face, was originally and primarily about the current environmental situation in Taiwan and serves as a powerful inspiration for everyone involved. But this time when I went to Taiwan, whether it's the depletion of resources in Taiwan or people's efforts to protect the environment, it's not truly and quite exactly as described here. Compared to the resources and ecology of various cities on the mainland, Taiwan's current situation is indeed quite good. There's also another example, former US Vice President Al Gore, who in the year 2007 extensively used a significant amount of scientific data to thoroughly prove his compelling points. His acclaimed documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, also garnered numerous prestigious awards, primarily the highly coveted Oscars in the United States. Later, he received the Nobel Peace Prize, and this was also one of his major works. In this particular context, various prominent cities are significantly involved, including major global cities like Shanghai and New York, as well as many other coastal cities, which may potentially face certain significant dangers in the foreseeable future. Additionally, everyone has probably seen it, the well-known Hollywood movie dramatically called The Day After Tomorrow. Although it is a science fiction Hollywood film, it still truly serves as a powerful and important reminder to all people. Including movies like Avatar and so on, about these things you might wonder, as monastics, instead of focusing on chanting Buddha's name, what's the point of watching and studying these things? In fact, whether you are a monastic or a lay person, the environment belongs to all of humanity. And not just to human beings, but to all the animals living on this entire planet as well. Each of us has the basic right, the important responsibility, and the fundamental obligation to understand and properly observe it. If we only focus on our own tiny corner of the world and everyone neglects and thoughtlessly abandons the larger shared environment we all live in, then in the end, what will the inevitable result be? I think everyone is very clear about that unfortunate outcome. So, what should we clearly realize from this sobering reality? It is absolutely imperative that we commence caring for and actively protecting our environment right now without further delay. For instance, the growing issue of greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect is already very serious and alarming. If the average global temperature rises by just 2 degrees Celsius, everyone knows that a significant amount of the Arctic ice will inevitably melt. When this ancient ice melts, within those deeply embedded ice layers, dormant bacteria that have been trapped and accumulated for tens of thousands of years will all be released. In our world today, serious disasters like widespread wildfires and powerful earthquakes keep happening repeatedly, and there are many people who tragically die from suffocation and related conditions. After the Antarctic ice melts substantially, the sea level in many oceans worldwide will rise significantly and pose grave threats. When the global sea level rises by an average of 6 meters, many vulnerable coastal cities, including the densely populated metropolis of Mumbai and numerous other urban centers worldwide, cities like these will be submerged, forever sunk beneath the sea. These significant dangers are not mere threats made by anyone simply to scare us, but rather critical issues that all of humanity should genuinely care about from the broader perspective of the larger global environment, as we just mentioned. Right now in Beijing, Nanjing, and many other major cities, even though there are no official reports, in reality, this is also a kind of harm brought about by the Industrial Revolution. Some sources also mention that in 1952, London, England also experienced this kind of air pollution. Altogether, approximately 12,000 individuals tragically died as a direct result of this event. Subsequently, through the diligent and concerted joint efforts of everyone involved to effectively control the pervasive air pollution, it is noteworthy that there have been absolutely no such regrettable incidents occurring since the pivotal year of 1965, marking a significant achievement in environmental management. Countries like the United States, as well as other Southeast Asian and Western countries, are also very deeply concerned and seriously worried about their own ancestral land and increasingly valuable resources, including essential elements like water, forests, clean air, and so on. Now, what exactly are people truly thinking and contemplating? Just talking about these critical environmental issues isn't enough anymore. We absolutely need to diligently find and identify the fundamental root cause. Why have such significant and disturbing events happened in recent years that never occurred before in recorded history? The The main reason, the fundamental source of it all, is money and profit. What is the underlying cause of so much devastating destruction of nature now? The root cause is always money and material gain. Whether it's many of our esteemed educational institutions and universities or individuals residing in the contemporary world today, their fundamental values and aspirations are predominantly centered on the accumulation of financial resources and material wealth. Beyond this pervasive focus, there appears to be a distinct absence of any truly higher, more profound or intrinsically meaningful pursuits. This is a widespread and prevailing mindset nowadays. When you really live like this, pursuing only wealth, you might have some money and comfort, but what you ultimately bring to nature and the planet may not be very optimistic or hopeful at all. I once read about an outstanding and influential American poet named Walt Whitman. He famously said this. He articulated, "The earth has generously given humanity all the essential essence of material things, providing us with everything we need to sustain life and thrive. But in the end, what it takes back from us is all the waste of those materials." Why is it like this today? It's because we continuously strive for money and prosperity. Whether in school or at any time in life, we may really need to pause and calm our busy minds. Many people frequently ask me, what do people truly live for in the end? A lot of people feel increasingly lost and uncertain. I often tell them that there are several distinct and meaningful ways to live one's life. One profound way is to truly benefit other lives, to genuinely find immense value and deep meaning in living for the well-being of others. This might involve a strong desire to help many people in society, or indeed other living beings. Another significant way is to live primarily for your own cherished family and closest friends. And then there's a situation where you might not even be able to help your friends, family, or even your own parents. As long as you do not take your own life, as long as you survive and continue to live bravely, that also truly takes a truly significant amount of courage indeed, especially in various other nations around the world, you know. For example, Thailand. Some time ago, I visited some schools in Thailand. I asked them, has anyone here ever committed suicide? They said, it has never, ever happened in our school. We truly can't recall any such cases. This particular situation might indeed have something significant to do with how we ourselves perceive and judge life. One crucial factor is the specific information we constantly see in our daily lives. Maybe this has become a kind of side effect in our lives. It's something we see all the time. For example, in movies, when people encounter pain or difficulties, some individuals choose to become monks and go to temples, but this particular phenomenon is also truly quite unreasonable in many ways. In reality, it's important to understand that monks don't typically go to temples just because they face significant difficulties in life. I myself didn't encounter any particular difficulties either, but I personally felt that some jobs simply weren't suitable for me, so I ultimately chose this spiritual path. And there are countless people like this. So some of the media and public opinion we have now are also unreasonable. There's also the phenomenon of people choosing suicide when they encounter difficulties in life. This is also unreasonable. This kind of negative education and these kinds of inappropriate films are not good for young people's growth and well-being. As for young people, they should properly be in school getting quality education. I often talk to some teachers and educators about this. I sincerely hope that some dedicated teachers can truly teach students how to be a good person, how to effectively face life's challenges, face immense pressure, and face profound pain. Putting crucial effort into addressing this issue is even more fundamentally important than professional skills. Many students come to this school with a very pure mindset. Some of them start learning entirely on their own, diligently studying all kinds of valuable knowledge, which is truly excellent. When you eventually leave this esteemed school, you will be full of significant gains. No matter what skill it is, you have mastered it thoroughly. However, there are also some individuals who leave completely empty-handed, without having truly learned anything valuable whatsoever. At school, you could say they're like wild horses off the reins, with no restrictions from their families either. University is not like high school or elementary school, where many teachers and parents are watching over you all the time. When you lack any self-discipline, I'm afraid that here, some people are not really seriously studying at university, but just muddling through it without genuine effort. There, many behaviors involve picking up bad or even harmful knowledge and skills during their time in university. In the end, when they enter society, when they step into the real world, Their whole life is spent in ongoing pain and difficult struggle. This concerning phenomenon is very serious and growing in schools today. Especially now, what's even more important is that during the process of learning knowledge, you absolutely shouldn't be primarily thinking about how to make more money in the distant future or how to achieve a significantly higher level of living. That is fundamentally not the correct attitude to adopt when approaching the process of learning. When we were diligently studying at the Buddhist Academy, it is indeed true that our fundamental living conditions were originally very poor. But our purpose in studying was not to think about whether we would have a salary or wealth in the future. We never thought that way. We just worked very hard. Even though now I haven't really achieved any great success or anything like that, I still deeply feel that the strong aspiration I had when first learning new knowledge, the desire to read so many books, hundreds of books, this is the basic requirement for anyone who wants to acquire knowledge. During the process of learning, how to become so absorbed that you forget to eat and sleep. Now, I see many college students. I visited many universities and learned about this in detail. College students just sleep all winter and basically don't attend classes regularly. They come here not to attend classes and study, but primarily to sleep and relax. Some don't study properly or attend classes seriously throughout the semester. When exams come around, they desperately scramble for last-minute help, anxiously begging teachers, asking classmates for assistance, even searching on their computers. They try all sorts of ways to cheat, but in reality, they lack real ability themselves. Such behavior is indeed quite serious and truly not encouraging. However, it is important to acknowledge that many schools across the United States and Canada are not like this. At their schools, I have personally visited a good number of them, some of their students have never, within the entire student body, encountered such issues or witnessed similar conduct. Especially at more successful schools like Harvard, Columbia, and the University of Washington, they do not have any negative phenomena competing internally with each other in any way at all. But here, in some of our schools, there are students who they spend their entire day constantly comparing their material wealth, meticulously talking about what their respective families possess. This includes whether they are picked up by expensive luxury cars or whether they wear fashionable designer clothes or not. Wearing one brand today, switching to another brand tomorrow. Oh, then this student is considered very successful. But actually, this kind of thing isn't necessarily beneficial for learning. I met a student from Harvard. I asked, "How many years have you been here?" He said, 7 years. I asked him, "How many items of clothing have you actually bought?" He then said, "I brought a few essential clothes from my home when I initially came here, and I haven't purchased any new clothes at all since arriving here." We truly don't have much time, and at school, there is absolutely no competition whatsoever over money or material possessions. I personally went to see for myself the remarkable spirit with which they diligently study. They read extensively at night, always reading with great focus. Even during the day, when they are eating their meals, they continue to read while eating. Many of the dining areas are just like this. But here, many of our college students are not like that. Not to mention reading while eating. Some even sleep directly during class and have no energy or interest to learn properly. They also treat their teachers with a very indifferent and apathetic attitude. In such an environment, maybe even the teachers aren't truly willing to teach you much or go deeper. But if you bring up money or discuss how to make money effectively, then their eyes light up more and more noticeably. Wow, it's as if everything in life revolves completely around money nowadays. Isn't that such a really happy thing? But actually, that's not necessarily true happiness. There was an ancient Greek myth about this. Even though it's just a myth, I often find myself thinking about this particular story. There was a man who was extremely greedy for money. He was so incredibly greedy that he eventually pondered, wouldn't it be truly wonderful if everything I touched, every single object, could miraculously turn into pure gleaming money? Later, it is widely said that he earnestly prayed to the powerful god of wine. He asked, "Can I have the ability to turn anything I touch into gold so that whatever I touch instantly becomes gold?" Eventually, he was indeed granted this immense power. He got precisely what he wished for and was absolutely overjoyed. Everything he touched instantly turned into solid gold, but soon trouble inevitably followed. When he tried to eat, his delicious food turned into gold as soon as he touched it, so he simply couldn't swallow anything at all. One day, he accidentally touched his beloved daughter, and she instantly turned into a golden statue before his eyes. At this shocking point, he profoundly felt that it was all meaningless and without value. If everything is gold, then nothing has any meaning, and there is no happiness in it either. He went back to the god of wine once again and asked, "Can you please take back this power you so generously gave me?" In the end, the god did take back the power, and only then did he realize that even in a world abundantly filled with glittering gold, there is no true happiness. In fact, nowadays, there are some incredibly wealthy people among us who, whether in this life or for several generations to come, will never have to worry about food or clothing. But are they truly happy? For the most part, they are not. I often see some of the highest-ranking people, whether they possess the most luxurious and opulent cars or reside in the finest and most exquisite hotels, they often sigh a great deal and speak many words of profound sadness. There is no laughter, no genuine smiles to be found. So when people choose to place all their hopes and aspirations entirely on the pursuit of money, perhaps all they ultimately end up with is merely money and absolutely nothing else of true value. Consequently, their mood may become increasingly lonely, profoundly indifferent, and utterly hopeless. This is a very real and significant possibility. So, for all the students gathered here today, it is important that you truly reflect on your personal values. In reality, what profound and lasting happiness does money truly bring us? Wouldn't it be far better for us to willingly endure some temporary hardship now and wholeheartedly focus on acquiring valuable learning experiences? I truly believe that learning is the most profoundly meaningful and genuinely joyful thing in life. Perhaps as you diligently walk your unique path in life, thoughtfully enter society, and lovingly start a family, when you eventually look back and reflect upon your cherished student days, you'll undoubtedly realize just how wonderfully meaningful and truly precious that time was. A life spent learning without worries. This should be the most brilliant period in one's life. Perhaps many students are always waiting to graduate, thinking that after graduation, it seems that in the past, many people looked forward to graduating, but now not as many do. After graduation, they realize their prospects aren't so promising. A lot of pressure is waiting for them. Pressure from family, from work, from finding a job. And they also have to deal with all sorts of complex interpersonal relationships in the world around them, constantly. I often say that nowadays many students haven't learned how to handle interpersonal relationships while at school. They do not know how to properly show respect to their superiors or to get along harmoniously with their colleagues, nor do they know how to truly care for those under them with genuine compassion. In school, it may seem to you that classmates are all very simple and relationships are generally quite good. But once you enter society, it's not like that at all. In fact, it's quite common for some students to be rather withdrawn and introverted while they are attending school. They often find themselves unable to tolerate the personalities of the people living in their dormitories, and they simply cannot stand what they observe or hear around them during their time there. Even if someone next to them plays music, they can't stand it and wonder what that person is doing. They can't stand it when someone makes a phone call either. Some people don't sleep properly at night and disturb everyone else. In different environments, people encounter different troubles and bad habits at any time. But the most fundamental issue is that we need to learn how to handle interpersonal relationships now. This is very important. In addition, what else do we need to learn? Learn to look much further ahead into the future, to stand a little bit higher. Don't lose out on many valuable things just for some petty, immediate gains right in front of you. This profound concept is explored in the Qi Wu Lun chapter of Zhuangzi, a classical philosophical text. There is a story called Chop and Change that everyone knows. There was a man who diligently kept a group of monkeys, and every single day he carefully fed them a total of 7 delicious fruits. He consistently gave them 3 fruits in the morning and then provided 4 more in the afternoon, and the monkeys were all very unhappy and immediately threw a significant fit. So he quickly changed it. He had absolutely no choice. So he thoughtfully changed his tone and said, "I'll give you 4 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon." Then the monkeys were absolutely overjoyed. As for us human beings, we should always try to think much further ahead about many important things. Ideally, we should think about this life and also about the next. We should always consider ourselves and also thoughtfully think of others. And the main fundamental purpose of living is not to center everything solely around ourselves. If anyone truly puts benefiting others first and does things with this kind of positive mindset, then this person is truly accomplished. From the profound perspective of their inner mind, it can truly have a great and significant impact. This is precisely what I genuinely want to talk about today. How exactly can we properly and effectively handle our desires and complex interpersonal relationships? I'm not necessarily recommending that you all must study Buddhism, But whether it's in Buddhism's view of ecology or in Buddhist culture, there are indeed many wise teachings that help the mind find true happiness and mental balance. For example, Buddhism talks about contentment and reducing unnecessary desires. I've heard that some of our students here study economics and related fields. There might be some interesting contradictions, because in economics, it's generally said that limited available resources are often used to satisfy unlimited human ideas, creative thoughts, and various desires. But in reality, that's just a saying. I still want to put it this way today. Why is that? As I mentioned earlier, the Earth is finite and all its resources are indeed limited. If we could truly satisfy all our desires, not to mention everyone else's, even the desires of just 100 people probably couldn't be fulfilled. All the wealth on Earth might not be enough to satisfy even one person. As everyone knows, some people's demands are getting higher and higher these days. In the past, people in rural areas were very happy just to have a house in the county town. But once they move to the county, that's not enough. They insist on having one in the city. But even having a house in the city isn't enough. Ideally, it should be in the city center. And even having a house in the city center isn't enough. It's best to have a nice villa somewhere else, and even one villa isn't enough for their appetite. They want villas in Canada, the UK, and other prestigious places as well. I've seen some wealthy people in the West where a single person owns a dozen or so properties, a dozen or so luxurious villas in various locations. But no one actually lives in them. They're all completely empty. People often call them demon palaces, these palaces where only demons truly live, because no one else ever lives there. But there are some elderly people who still keep holding on to them. This villa is indeed mine. That villa is also mine. And this one here is certainly mine as well. I possess several villas in New York, some in Canada, and others located elsewhere. But in reality, none of them are actually used. So sometimes we truly need to reflect on this situation. Each and every one of us as individuals truly needs essential resources to survive and thrive in this complex world, to truly live a fulfilling life. However, we should not be excessively greedy or accumulate more than what is truly necessary. Can we generously share some of the valuable resources we are fortunate enough to possess with other human beings and all other living creatures across the entire world? For example, there are people in the world today who can't even guarantee their basic food and drink. There are approximately 840 million individuals across the globe who are currently living in a state of hunger. This means that a significant 12% of the entire human population experiences the harsh reality of hunger on a daily basis. Right now, there are many people in the world, including 4.3 million children, who have nothing to rely on. This time, I went to some refugee settlements in Thailand and Cambodia. These refugees have no official status and lack food and clothing. It's truly heartbreaking to see them. Oh, in fact, there are some people in the world who are excessively and incredibly wealthy. They have so much that they have no choice but to waste everything needlessly. Meanwhile, some people are so desperately poor that they can't even afford 3 decent meals a day. They live in a constant state of hunger. Perhaps you have personally experienced this situation, or maybe you've observed it in various other sources. The young children in Africa, and those living across the vast deserts of Africa. A dedicated journalist whom I know well often travels there for her work. Each time they return, it brings a profound change to their outlook on life. Nowadays, many people seem to feel like they're lacking this or that. They live in a constant state of suffering every day. But when you go to Africa, when you visit some refugee areas, you realize we are actually people who have everything. If we look at it from the perspective of wealth, we should be very happy people. But we ourselves don't even realize it. This kind of perspective is actually very evident indeed in Buddhism. As I mentioned earlier, being content with very little desire. When the Buddha was approaching his final nirvana, he spoke about something called the Sutra of the Buddha's bequeathed teachings. So what exactly does the Sutra of the Buddha's last teachings truly say? People who are very greedy often have many desires for personal gain. They seek a great deal of benefits. The more benefits they seek, the more suffering and afflictions they inevitably experience. This is indeed very important, and perhaps it conflicts a bit with your current understanding of economics. But in reality, we are certainly not saying that people absolutely don't need to survive. The essential resources necessary for basic survival are indeed genuinely needed. However, excessive occupation and wasteful consumption are completely and utterly rejected in the teachings of Buddhism. In another sutra, the Buddha, there is one called the Devata Sutra. So what does the Devata Sutra say? Having few desires brings the greatest happiness. Contentment is the greatest wealth. What exactly does this truly mean? A person without excessive desires is genuinely and truly happy. If we possess some wealth and can truly feel a deep sense of contentment and satisfaction, that is precisely what it means to be genuinely wealthy. Nowadays, many individuals can't clearly or precisely define what it truly means to be wealthy. You all know that back in the 1970s, if a family had 10,000 yuan, we truly called them 10,000 yuan millionaires, where I come from. Now it's 100 million yuan millionaires. In just over 30 years, in another 20 years, it might very well be 10 billion yuan millionaires. It could indeed reach that significant point. If we carefully think about it, isn't the ultimate goal people are relentlessly chasing after truly exhausting for all of humanity? If we don't set boundaries for ourselves, if we truly don't have a sense of personal control over our own minds, you might end up living in this world never feeling satisfied. When you truly leave this world, when you're on your very last final breath, maybe you'll finally realize it, but by then realizing it is useless. Because life only lasts a few decades. No matter how you chase after things in those decades, if you keep chasing your desires, you'll find it impossible to keep up. In the very end, you'll be so utterly exhausted that you will simply collapse. But if you truly don't have excessive desires, does that truly mean that Buddhism teaches us not to pursue anything at all, not to compete in any way whatsoever? No, that's absolutely not the case. Buddhism also profoundly teaches that reasonable pursuits, competition, doing business properly, and studying appropriately are all necessary. If you carefully read more profound Buddhist texts, such as the widely known Agama Sutra and the comprehensive Vinaya Pitaka, as well as the Sigalovada Sutta and various other different sacred scriptures, you'll undoubtedly find that there are very clear and explicit records about the essential requirements for people's daily lives. Some individuals, when they thoughtfully consider Buddhism's profound view of ecology or its fundamental basic ideas, seem to think that Buddhism is just about being in temples, worshipping the Buddha, burning incense and bowing, that this is all there is to Buddhism. But they haven't truly understood the actual profound teachings of Buddhism. Certain Buddhist practices are, in fact, just specific outward actions. It's like doing some exercises or engaging in extracurricular activities at a university. These are actually not really the main content of the university curriculum. The main content of university courses is the essential knowledge that teachers impart to you every single day. That truly should indeed be the very real purpose of studying at university. What is discussed in Buddhist studies is actually the importance of Buddhist thought. So, what is Buddhist thought? It's the profound concept of compassion, as I mentioned earlier, not being overly greedy, but rather being truly content with less and deeply cherishing all your blessings. Nowadays, countries around the world are also advocating not to be extravagant or wasteful, and not to waste excessively. In fact, this was already made very clear by the Buddha over 2,500 years ago. Buddhists should serve as clear and exemplary role models on this important issue, demonstrating their principles through their actions. You know, in the rich tradition of Chinese Buddhism, there was a revered master named Master Yingguang, who dedicated himself to his spiritual practice and teachings for an extraordinary period of 30 years. Whether it was his cherished clothes or his precious food, he was always extremely careful indeed not to waste anything at all. In the morning, when he drank porridge, after finishing, he was afraid there might still be a single grain of rice left on the bowl. Then he would lick the bowl with his tongue, and after that, he would wash it with water and drink the water. He kept this practice up for 30 years. I often think that some of Master Yingguang's habits are actually quite similar to the customs in Tibet. What is life like in Tibet? In Tibetan culture, people usually eat sampa and rice, simple yet nourishing staples. After eating, they lick the bowl with their tongues, which might seem unusual to outsiders. People might wonder, why would you lick the bowl with your tongue? You're not a dog, so why do that? But in fact, this is actually the best method. If you happen to leave even a single grain of rice in your bowl, even one grain is the result of every grain comes from hard work, as everyone knows. It's something that farmers have worked extremely hard to produce. It's not easy to come by. Nowadays, many of us just wear clothes a few times and then throw them away. Some people own hundreds or even thousands of pieces of clothing. This is what some scholars consider profoundly sinful because they possess far too many valuable resources. It might be a bit better now, but in the past, many high-level government officials and influential entrepreneurs, when they ate their meals, sometimes they wouldn't even finish a quarter of their abundant food. All of it would just be carelessly left on the table and then subsequently thrown away. If so many of us keep living like this every day, so what exactly constitutes this type of waste? According to a comprehensive statistic released from last year, the total amount of waste that can now be accurately calculated and quantified across China has impressively reached an astonishing figure of 200 billion renminbi annually. If people could use this, it would be enough to feed 200 million people for a year. So now, at our dining tables, I've seen it before, after some people finish eating, the fish meat, rabbit meat, and many other dishes are completely untouched. Not a single bite was touched, and all of it was thrown away, dumped out. People around us feel really, truly sorry about it, but there's nothing we can do at all. Nowadays, it seems that when people get together with friends, if there are only 3 dishes and a soup, and you eat just a little, it feels like you're losing face. But it's not like this in the West. If someone leaves a lot of leftovers and wastes food, people often think, oh, this person truly has no class. It's really quite embarrassing to witness. So a lot of our current attitudes about cherishing blessings, what does that really mean? In our daily lives, we should truly learn to start with ourselves. If we genuinely don't start with ourselves and only focus on others, then teachers talk about it in class, and students talk about it endlessly too. But in reality, it doesn't actually have any effect. Every little bit counts. Each person in whatever they're involved with, whether it's in our daily lives or in their actions. We should always start with the small foundational things. In actual fact, when society genuinely calls for it, at a certain crucial point, this important kind of message can indeed be widely spread. In the end, some of our values can be changed, while others cannot. Some are changed only partially. For example, if today we have approximately 300 people, and during one single meal, we truly save what we genuinely can, how much exactly can those 300 individuals save? It should be quite a substantial amount. If all of this valuable effort is thoughtfully pooled together, and we then use it to help more than 300 impoverished and needy children, just imagine how incredibly heartwarming and truly wonderful that would be for them. Some time ago when I was abroad, I visited a few orphanages. Sometimes I truly feel that on opposite sides of our planet, some people waste far too much, indeed an excessive amount of resources, while others are so profoundly hungry that they can barely survive, struggling for their very existence. We humans often think of ourselves as very smart and intelligent beings. But in reality, whether it's our education or otherwise, many people still lack a true sense of altruism. Although Buddhism teaches a particularly strong sense of altruism, it is still quite difficult to truly put this altruism into practice in everyday life. I especially hope that many of us can actually put things into action. There's one example that stayed with me. I once saw a professor who was giving a lecture at a school. Just 10 minutes before his lecture was about to start, the students began to slowly enter the spacious venue, one after another, and there happened to be a discarded banana peel that had been carelessly thrown on the main road. Each and every student stepped directly on it and audibly complained as they cautiously walked by, saying things like, "How could the organizers be so lacking in morals and environmental awareness?" Everyone kept constantly complaining about it all the time. After a short while, the esteemed professor finally arrived, and he also immediately started complaining quite loudly. He said, "Hey, banana peel, why didn't you go to the trash can earlier to take a nap? Why are you here exactly?" He loudly scolded. At this particular point in time, a student, feeling a little bit unhappy and quite annoyed, said to the esteemed professor, "Professor, you should simply give your important lecture. You really shouldn't be talking to that banana peel, you know. No matter how much you scold it, it won't go into the trash can by itself." The professor then said, "You are absolutely right. This is precisely what I want to talk about today." He continued, "It's not just me scolding it, you all were scolding it too." He replayed the entire process of everyone scolding it from earlier moments. Everyone was trying to stop it, all just saying things verbally without any physical intervention. But in reality, we didn't actually do anything about it. Each and every one of us should start with ourselves, with our own small, impactful actions. For example, not wasting food at the table or wherever we might be in any given environment. In the future, many of us here will become successful entrepreneurs or dedicated teachers. Many people become very influential individuals. At that time, every day, people are just thinking about keeping resources for themselves, embezzling for themselves, using things for themselves. At most, it's me and my children, my relatives and friends. This is how many people think nowadays. Apart from my own relatives and friends, I don't think about anyone else. No matter how pitiful someone unrelated to me is, I simply won't think about them, let alone thinking about my next life or what happens after. People just don't consider that. This is a kind of corruption in today's society and also a kind of garbage in our hearts that needs to be cleared away. This kind of garbage is even more serious than environmental pollution. Right now, we clearly see a lot of smog outside, and even driving is quite difficult. But in reality, deep within our hearts, there is an even more pervasive smog of selfishness and self-interest. It relentlessly spreads to your descendants and everyone closely connected to you. In the future, the pervasive pollution that emanates from deep within our very being will become even more severe. If within our hearts we truly possess a profound sense of genuine compassion, a deep sense of inner peace, and an altruistic mindset, then this is indeed the most effective and best way to truly clear away all the accumulated garbage. I truly hope that everyone here, if you perhaps feel that Buddhism is very distant indeed, you can still reflect deeply on the profound compassion that Buddhism consistently teaches. In the past, there was a particular individual, a person who, in various public and private situations, persistently spoke ill of Buddhism and deliberately slandered the revered Buddha. Later, a wise and humble rural woman approached him and thoughtfully said this to him: "You are certainly free to say bad things about the Buddha if you truly wish to do so. I don't have much knowledge. I'm just a rural woman. But ever since I started practicing Buddhism, I've experienced great changes in my heart. I have compassion, I have a sense of equality, and I have happiness. This happiness during my lifetime is extremely valuable to me, perhaps the most valuable thing I have. When I die, I won't lose anything, but will you really lose nothing? Are you so certain? If you keep insisting that nothing exists, when you die and actually discover that there is a Buddha, a heaven, and a hell, won't you have lost something then?" With just that one single sentence, the esteemed scholar on the other side was completely left utterly speechless. So, sometimes, as I have just mentioned, I am not here to personally say whether you should study Buddhism or not, but rather whether some of the profound ideas and concepts in Buddhism are truly necessary in today's complex society. I sincerely hope that everyone will give this some very serious and thoughtful consideration. If none of us truly have an altruistic heart, and we are always relentlessly running around and striving solely for ourselves, what kind of truly desolate and unfeeling environment will that ultimately create? What kind of highly intelligent yet perhaps ultimately soulless animals will humanity eventually become? This is something we should deeply reflect on. So, from another important perspective, we also need to seriously think about ecological issues. It's not just that we absolutely need to consider it. Each of us should start with ourselves and do many meaningful things in our daily lives. Ultimately, what we can achieve depends on each person's intention and ability. So let's do what we can. All right, thank you all very much.